Hello everyone. So in this video, I will be discussing creating a times table using Python. To do the times table, I'll be using these concepts. So if you have some ideas about this concept, that'll be helpful. If not, that should be fine because I'll be explaining them as well. So we'll be using functions, variables, input and output, loops, range function, data types, mathematical operations, string formatting, conditions, and the break statement. So I'll be creating three versions of the times table. So first one will be an easy version. So let's say a user wants to create a times table of 6. This is what you should see when we run the code. So let's create the easy version. So to create the easy version, I'll be using the concepts variables, output, loops, range, data types, mathematical operations, and string formatting, concatenations. So let's look at the easy version first. So again, we want to create the times table of 6. So the first step would be to create a for loop to print numbers 1 to 10. So if you know how loop works, I think you know how to do this. If you don't know it, that's fine. I will explain it. So we'll say for I in range 1, 11, print I. Now, if you don't know how for loop works, first of all, you need to have a range of numbers. The way the range function works, if you say 1, 11, it's going to run from 1 to 10. And when you say for I in range, basically that I is looking at the values from 1 to 10. And if you say print I, it's printing these numbers 1 to 10. So if I click on run, you'll see numbers 1 to 10. So again, range function will take these two numbers where 1 is your starting number. 11 is not included. So it goes from 1 to 10. So I is looking at these numbers in the range function. When you're saying I in range 1, 11, is the I is looking at numbers from 1 to 10. And if you say print I, it's looking at the numbers from 1 to 10. For example, if I change it to 21, you guys can guess that it's going to go from 1 to 20. So if I click on run, it'll go from 1 to 20, as you can see. Okay. However, we want to do 1 to 10, so that's why I'm doing 1 to 11. Okay, so that's our first step to use the for loop and the range function to print numbers 1 to 10. Step number 2, in the same loop, we also want to print the number 6 as many times the loop runs. So while we are printing these numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, remember these numbers are running in a loop. Okay, so this print statement is getting executed a total of 10 times since you're printing numbers from 1 to 10. So at the same time you're printing I will also be printing the number 6 by using comma to separate the I from 6. So now, as you are printing 1, 2, 3, you will also be printing the number 6. So if I click on run, now you'll see the number 6 as well. Why we're doing this? Because we're creating the times table of 6. So we need to show the number 6. And also we need to show the number 1 to 10. So that's the purpose of printing 6. Okay, step number 3, in the same loop, we want to multiply 6 and I to display the result. So now you can guess that to see the result, like 6 times 1 is 6, 6 times 2 is 12. We have to multiply 6 and I. Remember, I is going from 1 to 10. So at the beginning, your I is 1, then 2. So I'm going to do 6 times I. Okay, so this will multiply 6 and I. So now if I click on run, you will see 6, 1, 6, 6, 2, 12. So you can see you're almost there. All we need to do in step 4 is print the multiplication sign and print the equal sign. So right after 6, I have to print the multiplication sign. So I can do that as a string. So I can pass that string here. I can use the X, which will look like a times table. Don't forget the comma. After you have the string X, now if I click on run, I will see the times. The last thing I need is the equal sign just before the result. So just before 6 times I want to have an equal sign. So again, I'm going to do another string, equal sign, another comma to separate the string from 6 times I. So now if I click on run, we are done. And you can see that we have the times table. So you can see we just need 2 lines of code to create the times table of 6. And that's the quickest way to create the times table. So I hope that makes sense. Now we will do the second version of it. So let's look at the medium version. So here we're going to use the concept of functions, variables, output, loops, range, data types, mathematical operations, string formatting, concatenations. Okay, so let's do them. So first I'm going to add a comment here that this is easy. And then we will work on the medium one. Okay, so let's look at the steps. So step 1, we're going to create a function with a parameter number. So let's create a function. So to create a function, you have to use the word def. Let's call this times table. We need to have a parameter. Let's call the parameter number. Okay. And inside the function, we're going to create a loop which prints the number 1 to 10. So again, we want to use the concept from the easy version. So we want to run the same loop. So we're going to say for I in range 1, 11, print I. So basically we're doing the kind of the same thing, but putting them in a function. Okay. Step number 3, in the same loop, we also want to print the parameter number as many times as the loop runs. The only difference is that instead of having the fixed number 6, we want to use the number, which you can think of as a variable. Okay, so instead of 6, just keep thinking that that's the variable number. So wherever you're using 6, we'll be using the variable number. So we need to have that here. Again, think of number as 6. Okay. Step number 4, in the same loop, we want to multiply number and I to display the results. The same thing that we did 6 times I, we want to do number times I. So I'm going to run it and do number times I. Also be careful that we also need to show the multiplication and the equal sign as well. So let's do them. I'm going to do the multiplication. We have to use comma to separate them. And then we're going to do the equal sign, separate them. Okay, so that's our function. You can see basically we did the same thing, but instead of having a fixed number 6, we are using the variable number, which will allow us to create a times table of any number of our choice. Okay, so step 5, we already have the multiplication sign and the equal sign. The last step is you're going to call the function and pass an argument number of your choice. So now we're not going to have the number 6. We'll have any number of our choice. So let's disable the first version for now. And let's see how this works. So I'm going to call the function. If you know how to call a function, just write the name of the function. But remember that the function has a parameter number, so we have to pass an argument here. So instead of number, we can pass any number of our choice. For example, I can pass 8. So instead of number, you will have the number 8. So whatever you're saying number, or wherever you use the number 6, you will be using the number 8. So if I click on run, you will see now I create the times table of 8. So benefit of using a function here is that I can create times table of any number. I just pass the number of my choice and it will create the times table of that number. And you can see I just created the times table of 12. Okay, so this is the medium version of the times table. And we will now do the last one. Okay, so the last version, we're going to use all the concept that we discussed: functions, variables, input, output, loops, range, data types, mathematical operations, string formatting, f string, and then break statement. Okay, so let's see the steps and then we'll get started. So first I'm going to disable this code for now. And then say this is a difficult version or hard. Okay. So first step, create a function with the parameter number. So again, the same thing that we did. So I'm going to create def times table number. Kind of the same step first. Create a for loop to print number 1 to 10. So let's do the same thing. I can just copy as well. So let's just write it. So again, print I. Okay, so in the same loop, we also want to print the parameter as many times, and then we're going to add the multiply numbers and I, and then we're going to also add the multiplication sign and the equal sign. It's exactly the same thing that we did here. Let's actually copy this line. That'll save us time instead of writing everything again. Okay, so we're done with step number 5. Okay, so now step number 6, we're going to use the input function to ask the user to type a whole number. Now we're done with the function, okay? And now we want to use the input function to ask a user to type a whole number. So instead of us providing a number like 812 that we provided, we want to read the number from a user. So basically we're asking someone else to type a number of their choice. So you're going to go outside of the function. Remember, this is the end of your function. And then I'm going to ask the question using the input function to type a whole number. Let's call this user number. So I'm going to create a variable. Let's call this user number equal to, you're going to use the input function here. And here I can say, okay, type a whole number. Actually, since we're asking for a whole number, let's use int. Okay, if you remember, or if you know, int will make sure that whatever you are asking them, it's a number. It's a whole number. So we're using the int function here. Then I'm going to use a \n so that the user can write the whole number in the next line instead of writing it in the same line. Okay, so then what we're going to do is we're going to pass the number to the function and create the times table. So now that user number will be passed in the times table. So what we will do, we will call the function times table and pass the number the user wants to see. Okay, so if I click on run, just test our code. So type a whole number. Let's say I want to create a times table of 9. Press 9, and you can see that it created a times table of 9. Okay. Now, ask the user if they want to create another times table, and if the response is no, stop the program. But if the response is yes, rerun the program. So now you can see that the code has stopped working. Okay, because you completed it, it's going to stop. So what we can do is we can use another loop here to allow the user for another times table, whether they want to create another times table or not. So what we will have to do is we're going to pass these two lines in a loop. Okay, so let's create a while loop here. So let's say while true. That means as long as these two lines, as long as the condition is true, it will just keep running these two lines. Okay, so while true means these two lines will keep running forever. So true means it's always true. So after you are done with the times table, we're going to ask them, okay, do you want to create another times table? So let's ask them that question. So let's say I'm going to create a variable. Let's call this user response. Okay, let's use the input function and say, do you do you want to see another times table? And we'll ask them to type yes or no. Okay. And let's say type yes or no. Okay. And we'll see if they are saying Y. We will rerun the code, and if they say no, we'll stop the program. So we're going to create a conditional statement. So if user response is yes. If it is yes, we'll continue this. And else, that means they're saying no, and we'll break out of the loop. Okay, so if I click on run, so type a whole number, let's say I want to create a times table of 5. And now you can see that it's asking, do you want to see another times table? If I say yes, Y, and type a whole number, let's say I want to create a times table of 4. And you can see that it's creating the times table of 4. And now I'm going to say no, N. And you can see it stopped working. Okay, so if I say N, it stopped working. And also you can see that I have to type the response in the same line because I did not use a \n. So if you want, you can do a \n here. So the response will be on the next line. And also I mentioned that we're going to use the string formatting here using the f string. So instead of printing it this way, I'll show you how can we do this using the f string. So I'm going to do print. Let me first disable this here, just to show you how to do the f string. So if you're going to do f strings to format strings, you can do f quotation marks, and then you can put these variables. So if you want to put a variable, you have to do the curly brace. You can pass number. Then you want to do the times, which is the x. So I can just put x. And then again, I have to do I. So I can do, I can have a space first. Now, every time you're adding a space, that will be added as well. So I'm going to do I. So a variable, if you are using f string, you must put the variable in the curly brace. Then you want to do the equal. And then you want to do number times I. So we'll do number times I. Okay, so this is the f string version instead of using comma. So you have to use the letter F, which means that you want to use f string. So you put whatever you have a variable, you put this in a curly brace, and the rest of the stuff, like any string that you have, you can just put it as it is. If you want to add a space, you can put it here. So you'll have a space there. You have a space here. You have a space here. If you don't want to see all these spaces, you can remove some of the spaces. So if I run this, type a whole number, let's say 7. And you can see that it's creating the times table of 7. You can see the space has been added before the equal sign and after the equal sign. But if you don't want to see them, you can remove them as well. Okay, so that's the last version of the times table. Hope this makes sense. If you guys have any questions, please let me know. Thank you for watching, guys. Bye.